Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and I want to thank you very much for attending this seminar on family support mechanisms in the United Nations. I'm Regan Shercliffe, and I'm the global lead of the UN Mental Health Strategy. I'll introduce our colleagues in a minute, but I just want to set it up a little bit in terms of the importance, I think, of how we broaden the scope of what we consider mental health and what we consider support to staff. So I've been in the UN for 15 years and I've dragged my family all over the globe, quite often kicking and screaming, and sometimes quite happy. And I think we all know this, that, how the family lands is how the staff member lands. And so we're really trying to advocate for a broader approach in how we can support families, because the more we support families, the better off the staff member is. And I think it's part of our duty of care. So we're going to talk this afternoon. We've got a wonderful panel who I'll introduce in a second, who've been doing this kind of work for a long period of time. And our role here with the Global Mental Health Strategy is trying to find ways to scale those excellent practices that we have already existing in the system. And we'll have a couple from the World Bank and from WFP in a moment, who are exemplars, I think, of a broad range approach to how we think about supporting staff and families, of course. So I'll introduce the colleagues around the table first. So I want to introduce Nana Ndukwe-Hertz, who is the counterpart in my counterpart in the Secretariat, who's managing the global or the mental health strategy for the Secretariat. Lucia Vinti is with us here in Bonn in the Global Mental Health Strategy. She's a program coordinator. And of course, we have Adele Sarkozy, who is our comms person and who has done a great job in setting all of this up. The three speakers that we have today are Catherine Mathieu, who is the Family Network Manager for the World Bank. We've got Isabel Rampa, who's the Family Liaison Officer for the United Nations World Food Program. And thankfully, we've got Courtney Kapuya here, who is the Regional Staff Counselor for the West and Central Africa for UNICEF. So we'll get started right away. We're going to have a series of questions to the panel members. And then, of course, we will have the Q&A open for people who want to ask questions, and we'll be able to address those questions closer to the end. So, Kat, first question goes to you. In 1972, the World Bank developed the Family Support Program. Can you please tell us a little bit about the Family Support Program and how it's evolved over the years? Over to you.
Thank you, Regan, and thank you so much for this opportunity to be in the big family of the UN. I feel humble. I guess the best way to have you understanding our organization is working around the why. So how did we start? And then very quickly I go to the details of the program. 1972, Washington, D.C., headquarters of the World Bank. Senior staff member died. And everybody goes to the funeral. At this period, of course, it's mainly male staff and female spouses. 52 years ago. So all the male staff went to the funeral with their female spouses, and all those women could see this poor widow, absolutely isolated, poor English, lost. And this is when a group of very brave, courageous, and brilliant women starts thinking, this is ridiculous. We are all isolated. We are all struggling. We have the same challenges, issues. The husband is constantly on mission. We are all by ourselves. We need to get together. We need to support each other. No one else will do that for us. And then that was the start of the organization with a different name, but it's the family network. So what calls my attention all the time here is how modern 52 years ago those women were, because as of today, basically the means have changed, but the needs are the same. So why would we, each one of us, reinvent the wheel? So where are we today? With the different means, but to answer the same needs. We have three pillars. Our mission, let's start with that, is to welcome families. We do only families, but by supporting families, obviously we support the staff, as you said. So welcome, support the families, the World Bank's employees' families, and we also have an advocacy role where we can talk about domestic abuse, and October is also the month of domestic abuse awareness, by the way. Bringing the voice of spouses to senior leadership. That's our advocacy role. So we organize around three pillars: the welcoming and the supporting of our families. Uh, we welcome people at HQ, Washington, D.C., with many events, activities, from social to information seminars. You know, information is the key. So we constantly try to explain the benefits, explain this, explain that, but also having a lot of fun, right? The second thing is what we call the worldwide program, is support to families relocating every 3-4 years. A common World Bank family will move around. You can spend many years without even being at HQ, so you go from a country to country, very similar with the rest of the UN agencies. And the third pillar that I would insist on is the professional development. Something that is different. It was already there 52 years ago, but it's more and more. Demographics change. So more and more our younger staff have a spouse who also is a professional and pretend to pursue a career. How do we do that? So we built up a very robust program to equip spouses to become professionally mobile, and working on the mobility principle, and equipping with real tools. We have platforms, we have exercise, etc. So we do a lot of work in that. And back to the worldwide program, and it's online. The seminars, or the what we call the career lab, which is a cycle of several sessions. So we reach out all over the world. This is something we learned with the pandemic, because in Washington, at least, we have been in lockdown. The bank was closed for 2 years almost. It's crazy. So we reformatted everything, and now we can reach out really to all our people. We are a volunteer-based organization. We are only 3 full-time staff, me and my 2 assistants, a few short-term consultants that we call the core team, because at the end of the day, no matter what, if you have volunteers or not, we need to deliver, of course. We cannot let our community down. And the rest, the huge work, the major part of the work is done by the volunteers in country offices, here at HQ, etc. And it's amazing. And every year we calculate the quantity of volunteer hours, and almost every year it's the equivalent of 15 to 17 full-time staff. So this is the contribution of our community. As of today, we have more than 8,000 members. Our presence in country office is still not what I would like to see, because among 130 country offices that the World Bank has, we have significant presence in about 80, 82. So it's still not good. I want more. But this is a work in progress, and every year we try to add. So, but it's based on the volunteers who are our members, our spouse or domestic partners. We also accept and work with single parents when they are staff, because we understand that as a single parent, you do the both aspect. You are the staff, but you also are the spouse for your kids. So this is who we are. Well, I guess I will leave time for my colleagues. But again, many thanks for this opportunity to present who we are and what we do.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kat, thank you very much. And I think it's an impressive program. I mean, you've been around a very long time. The program's been around a very long time. It's funded, and I think, which is crucial and key. And so while there is a volunteer element, it's your team that keeps that together and keeps that moving forward. So much respect to you. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Nena, who will ask the next question. Nena, thank you.
Thank you, Regan, and also thank you, Kat, for your interventions. So the next question I'm posing is to Isabel. We all know that WFP has a family liaison position for 4 years now, and it's the only agency to have this position today, which is pretty impressive. So could you tell us a bit more about how did this come about, and also a little bit about WFP's approach to family support? Thank you.
Thank you, Nena and Regan and Kat and the whole team. Yes, so I think, like Regan has said, everybody who's here today, whether they're UN personnel or family members, can attest to the impact that our work has on our families and our personal relationships. And very often when I speak to staff counselors throughout the UN, they tell me that's a huge part of the reason people come to their office, right? And to seek for support. So how did this come about in WFP? The then chief of staff counseling at WFP advocated to have a little research study done on the link between staff wellness and family wellness. And of course, the results that came from that study were very clear on the huge need there was for support to family members, right? And on family related issues. So the results were showing 3 types of support. One was the instrumental support, which is more of the logistic, financial support, right? You relocate, you reassign, you get the relocation grant, a bunch of things. They can help you with moving your furniture, etc. So that came out as pretty good, at least for fixed term staff, and families. But then there was the emotional support and the informational support. Kat was just saying how important, crucial information is. Well, these came out as pretty low, like big needs that were not being met at all. So the recommendation from that report was the creation of a family liaison officer position. So a mental health professional that would look into deeper what systems and programs, mental health systems and programs, psychosocial, needed to be developed, created in order to meet those needs, right? And that's how my position was created. I joined in August 2020. And very quickly, I was contacted by staff and families all over the world, all contract types, national staff, international, from the deep field, consultants, etc., requesting for family-related support. The request was huge. But not only the request was huge, what did I see in those counseling sessions was that the resources that people had were also huge, right? And it was a lot about connecting people, putting them together and allowing people to share those information, share those resources, those strategies they had developed over the years, whether it was moving with their families, without their families. And I want to specify, because this is very important for me, I think, and for all of us, that this is also true for national staff and national personnel, because we tend to think about the international when we're thinking about mobility and right adjustment, integration, etc. But most of our national personnel are kind of expatriates in their own countries. They live very far away from where they're from their hometown, from their original support systems, having to face the same challenges of relocating with or without their family, right? Career issues, you know, challenges, dual career, like Kat was saying, another language, another culture, or being separated from them, from your spouse, your kids, etc. So this is how the Flock was born, actually. The Family Liaison Outreach Community, which is the network, the community that we've developed at WFP, and that is now starting to be wider, right? That has been joined in some countries by UNICEF, UNDP, IOM, and now IAEA as well. And so what is the Flock? The Flock is a global community that brings all WFP employees and their families, so regardless of contract type, regardless of personal situation, including singles, because that isolation we were talking about, I think it was also Kat talking about the isolation of the spouses, many of our personnel also feel that social isolation. So it's about bringing everybody together and providing a space, a safe and supportive space where people can connect, create those social networks, support each other, share information and resources. So there's the global Flock, and we also have now local chapters. So in 3 years, we now have 31 countries that have a local Flock. It started with Sudan, then Rome, RHQ, Lebanon that had the Beirut blast a few months before. And, you know, it just scaled up very quickly, and 20 more countries that want to create a local Flock. And we also have these global peer support groups, in addition to some country level ones, for our, you know, some specific challenges that specific communities face, like sub-communities, let's say, like parenting kids with disabilities, or the LGBTQI plus personnel and their families, men, women, loss, pregnancy and infant loss, parenting teenagers, you know, all those very specific challenges we might face. And so that's a space where we can come together. It's always supported by staff counseling and by the Flock team, but where they can come together, see that they're not alone facing those challenges, learn, share among each other as well. So it's also a volunteer network, I have to say, similarly to the World Bank, but with also a team, because you can't rely, like Catherine was saying in Regan, only on volunteers, and a team is needed. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Isabel. It was particularly interesting to hear about the genesis of Flock, how it emerged from an initial research idea into something that has been so useful for families, you know, globally. And I like the distinction that you made between, well, you know, the fact that it's all inclusive for international, national, married or single. So it's pretty impressive. I'm sure that our guests will have some questions to ask in that regard. So thank you very much for your interventions. I'll now hand over to Lucia to ask the next question. Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, Courtney. Hi. Courtney, so you are regional staff counselor at UNICEF. We know that UNICEF in West and Central Africa, in partnership with WFP, has been very active in developing a family support program. So could you tell us a bit more about that, and in particular, what are the benefits you've seen so far?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm really happy to be here today to speak about how UNICEF and WFP have come together. They've included us in this really amazing program that's offered to all staff. We in UNICEF have launched it here in West and Central Africa in our Nigeria country office and also our Senegal country office. And we also have a community created in our supply division office as well. One of the reasons that I am so passionate about this program and have wanted to be a part of it from the very beginning, and have been watching the growth of the program and wanting to get on board, is because when I think about my own journey as a staff member within the UN system, I see so many different intersection points of where a community like this could have been really helpful to me and my family at various different seasons of our journey. I always like to share that I started as a single individual in an emergency duty station. I then followed a spouse who was in an emergency duty station and would come back only on R&Rs. I was then the leading partner and had an accompanying partner and had to manage the challenges of that. And now I'm in a split family situation. So throughout all of these different changes, I really see the benefit that a community of individuals who understand the different elements and challenges sometimes that this humanitarian lifestyle bring, it could have been so helpful, both in terms of offering practical support, but also in terms of connections and fostering resilience and well-being. So this is why I was really on board. Within the countries that we have been able to launch Flock, we've seen a lot of different benefits for our staff members and their families who are a part of this community. One of the main ones that I think has a lot of value is in this element of being able to create community for accompanying partners. We know that this is a really challenging position to be in because they don't have that natural environment within the workplace where they would often have that opportunity to create community. And so by offering them this opportunity to connect with others who may be in a similar situation, to participate in social activities, to have resources, maybe a buddy, it really provides them with that sense of community that they are sometimes lacking. And we know that some of the challenges that come along with being an accompanying partner are that they don't feel sometimes a sense of purpose and motivation. And so by bringing them in this way where they're really able to act, sometimes as leaders of a Flock community, as volunteers, it gives them that sense that they are contributing. And I really believe that this does act as a mitigation measure of the risk of being stressed, sometimes symptoms of depression, and having that experience impact the family dynamic and oftentimes the marriage as well. So giving them this opportunity, it also can act as something that can be helpful in a CV gap, where maybe they are in a place where they're not able to work and they're able to kind of build these leadership skills within this community. So lots of different benefits for this specific group. And we're really seeing that in the countries where we have launched Flock. Another really big benefit, and actually the reason that we reached out to WFP for this collaboration, was to support our staff during a time of transition. So here in Senegal, many of you are maybe aware, the UN agencies are currently in a transition period where we are moving out to a UN house that is quite a significant distance away from the current location in Dakar. And so this naturally creates stress because we're in this period of uncertainty. And Flock has really been able to kind of step into this place and offer a sense of community in terms of, really practical examples, having parents finding out, which school their kids are at, creating this buddy system, looking at ride sharing, looking at how we can kind of step in to fill gaps when one person might be far away, having someone to rely on back in Dakar. So it's really been a key initiative that has really helped during this time of transition. And we also kind of anticipate it being able to support incoming families who are maybe uncertain about what the state of the duty station looks like because of this context. So already being able to create those bridges, being able to share accurate information, being able to tell people who are thinking about Dakar as a duty station, where are the schools, what are the activities, what are the resources available? It's a really strong initiative at this time for this country office. We've also launched it in Nigeria, which was actually our pilot location. And it's been extremely impactful there in terms of, again, creating that community and offering opportunities for social connections. Our other wonderful presenters have mentioned that it is something that it can be so supportive for national staff as well, who are living in other duty stations away from some of the bigger cities where their families may remain. And being able to offer that community in the bigger cities for their families, even when the staff member is not present themselves, helps to connect the families to our mandate and lets them really see the value of why is their family member living away and what are they doing and what is actually this like work in this community that we are building. So that's been really helpful, especially in Nigeria, having that in place. Even before some of the recent, crisis situations with flooding occurred, it created this platform where people could share information really quickly around like basic needs and resources, road closures. And so it really facilitated communication in that way. And finally, I think it is extremely helpful in terms of being able to bridge what we sometimes see as a bit of a disconnect or a gap between national staff and international staff. Because when we are focused on a common value, like our families, like our children, it naturally enhances those bonds in the workplace and creates opportunities for connection when we are all participating in social activities outside of the workplace. So that's a lot of the different benefits that I see. Even apart from kind of the local flock impact, it's really helpful to have the peer support groups that are available on a global level. And the webinars that the flock team offer are excellent. The content is really on point, really helpful to staff members, and we see a lot of our families and our staff members participating in those events. So from the local level all the way up to the global, it's definitely an initiative that has been really appreciated by staff within UNICEF, and we're really happy to be able to continue this collaboration.
Thank you. Thanks, Courtney. That's so interesting what you're saying, and I'm sure it really resonates with a lot of colleagues online. Especially like the value of community that we all know how important it is, and the practical aspects. I'm pretty sure our colleagues can really empathize with this. And so I know there are some questions, but we will please continue putting them in the Q&A function that you see there. We'll read them just right after this panel discussion we're going to have now. But we are reading your questions, and please continue sending them. And Regan, over to you for the panel.
Great, thank you very much. And look, I think the examples you've given, touch on those core aspects that I think, was the start of all of this. And I think it's something that we all know is that sense of community and that sense of interaction, and that ability to find those people who are in similar situations and make those social supports, which is crucial, I think. And it's wonderful to hear that common thread through basically 3 organizations that have invested in this. So that's wonderful. One quick note as well too is I just want to thank IEAE for providing us that video at the beginning. Thank you very much. And now what we'll do is we're going to have a round of panel questions or panel discussion, and then what we'll do is we'll answer, as Lucia mentioned, we'll answer the questions in the Q&A. So please keep putting those questions in there. So I'm going to ask this first of Kat. Kat, what do you see as a long-term vision for family support at the systems level? So we've got some agency and funds and programs, right? What do you see it as what's a long-term vision at a systems level? And why do you think the UN should invest in this kind of programming? So Kat, over to you, and then we'll hear from the other panel members.
Thank you, Reagan. Let me start with the second part of your question. At the World Bank, we want to hire the best ones. Being the best ones, they have multiple opportunities. So it's about attracting and retaining the best staff members. You know, across the street in Washington, we have the Monetary Fund, the IMF, and lots of profiles of the staff we want to hire are hesitating between IMF and World Bank. And something that I could see in many of our people is that the fact that there is a strong, robust support system for the spouse and family members in general is a benefit that they really look for, and especially in the dual career situation. And more we're investing in this. So if you want to attract the best and retain them, you need this kind of network, right? And I guess you, the UN, you are all guys understanding that more and more and developing, and this is wonderful, wonderful. I'm not saying that at the IMF there's no support. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we are disputing a lot. So we have value. It's one of the benefits. About this long-term vision, I would really emphasize on the professional development for spouse. And something we have tried in the past, but we should try more, and maybe this is something we can start working on, is you are present, the UN, all UN agencies, Dakar, for instance, where we are also, we have country office there. We have the same kind of families, same profile, very similar, meaning dual career, obviously. Why don't we try to elaborate between all our organizations some system of sharing, maybe short-term consultancies, short-term contracts? If we exchange that, I'm pretty sure you will have in Dakar spouses that have some skills interesting for the World Bank, and vice versa. So on the long term, this is just one idea, but on the long term, for me, more and more, what is important is to support professional development, because again, those people will have choice. Mm-hmm. And if we want to retain them, we need to be very, very serious at the institutional level on supporting the dual career, on supporting spouse development, professional development, and on having them globally mobile means also continuous support for professional development for spouse. That, to me, it's more and more. The rest we know, we already do, we all are doing, Isabel is doing, and more other agencies will have this kind of support. But professional development support cannot be done by volunteers. So this is at the system level, institutionally, we need to strengthen this support. That's my 2 cents.
No, absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. Isabel, over to you, same question. What do you see as a long-term vision for family support at a systems level, not an agency level, but a systems level? And why should the UN invest in this kind of programming? Over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'll start like Kat with the why. I think it's been mentioned a bit already, but we know that working for the UN involves mental health risks. We know the stats, right? And so, yes, I think it's about risk mitigation, like Courtney was saying. I think that building and reinforcing and creating those social support systems is about prevention and protection of our personnel and support of our personnel. And it's what the UN Mental Health Strategy is aiming at doing, right? It's exactly the objectives. And that's why the UN Mental Health Strategy has recognized and included in the scorecard family support as a key aspect, because we know it's key to the resilience of our personnel, and that we need to support them on this. So for me, it's about building that resilience. We put staff at risk in very difficult, challenging environments, volatile environments, where more than others they can face collective crisis, like we've seen in Sudan, for example. And the fact of having a strong flock, has changed the impact that this terrible, terrible situation that both national and international have faced, and the support systems that recreated themselves through the either self-evacuation or organized evacuation, and in mitigating risks, in terms of mental health conditions developed, etc. Same thing for individual crises, which we all can face, right? I'm thinking about aging parents, the death of a family member, and you're away from a home because of work. Having your family and a strong social network to support you is key in those situations. So yes, for me, Regan, you said this, use this term at the beginning, it's about duty of care that our organizations need to provide to all personnel and their families. It's recognizing this, the impact that our work has on us and on our families. And so now the other part of the question, so how? I think we, like Kat was saying at the beginning, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's been a huge amount of work done by the World Bank, by WFP, and now UNICEF, UNDP, IOM. So I think it's about mutualizing, joining forces, right? It's about the whole UN system can benefit from all the work that's been done so far, and we can build on this together. So there's many reasons for this, and I was looking at the question, not to do it also single-handedly. One, because it's the most cost-efficient thing to do. We need to have teams, and those teams can work across the system to support these volunteer networks across the system. Courtney was mentioning the webinars we organized. These can very easily be across the system. Catherine was talking about the workshops and the whole career aspect. Same thing. So I think it's the cost-efficient thing to do. It creates a way more diverse and inclusive environment, because we have such diverse needs in the UN. And so it helps meet those very specific needs. It's more relevant to the deep field and the reality of the situation faced by our staff in the deep field, which is that they share sometimes small offices, compounds between several agencies. Staff also move, we know, across the UN, different UN entities. And like Kat was just saying, absolutely, the dual career aspect. If we're a systems-wide network, that facilitates the career of the spouse, partner, etc. And then working together in facilitating those career movements and those career opportunities across the UN system. So I think the way to scale up is that not duplicating efforts. Also, we're in a period of scarcity of resources that doesn't really allow that, and to join forces and collaborate on these initiatives. Over to you.
No, great. Thank you very much. I agree 100%. And I think, there was an interesting comment or line in one of the HLCM reports, that well-being of staff is an enabler. It shouldn't be seen as a constraint. And it is. I mean, I think investing in these resources at a systems level is not only the right thing to do from a duty of care perspective, but it also makes us more efficient. And like Kat had mentioned, right, it makes us employers of choice. So we bring good people and we keep good people. Courtney, over to you. Same question. What do you see as the long-term vision for family support at a systems level? And why should the UN invest in this kind of programming?
Thanks, Regan. I think we can all agree that the long-term vision is really to have family support fully integrated into the organizational culture, into the well-being framework, into HR policies, and to have it accessible by all. So I think why does it matter? It's because we should have equality for all staff members, no matter where they're located, no matter what their family looks like, no matter what movements they make, whether they're located in Bamako or Rome or Geneva, that they have access to these services that they need, both to, as we said previously, mitigate risk, but also to create these connections, to create this sense of engagement, to feel seen by the organization and cared for by the organization. I imagine care falls into our workplace values across all of the different agencies and organizations. So I think it is our responsibility. And I see that sometimes with a lot of our well-being support initiatives, it really depends on kind of that fertile soil being in place. So if we have a management team in place that values well-being and staff care, then we're able to really have a big impact. We're able to launch a lot of activities, and we're able to move things ahead within the domain of well-being. But that shouldn't be, it shouldn't inhibit other offices from being able to have access to the same type of support and programs. So it shouldn't be dependent on the individuals in that location, but it should be accessible to all. So I see that really as our vision and something that we should all be striving for together. And so I really, again, do thank WFP and World Bank for opening this up to the other agencies, to kind of being the ones to wave the flag and say, hey, this is important, and to bring us all along, because it really benefits the whole system.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, you know, it's rather than, as we mentioned before, reinventing wheels in each agency, we should be scaling these up. And I think that's one of the goals of the mental health strategy, is to scale these programs to a system-wide level. So thank you very much, Courtney, Kat, and Isabel. I'm going to ask you to hang out for a bit, and we're going to open the floor up for some questions. And please keep the questions coming in the Q&A. And Lucia, I believe you've got those questions, so over to you.
Yes. Thanks. So yeah, so there's we're gonna look at life as well. So feel free to like the questions that you'd like to be responded first. So first one I see is how are family members involved in the governance of the World Bank Family Network and FLOC? Are the leaders elected by the spouses or partners, as is the case with the New York Local Expatriates Association? Who wants to take this one?
Yeah, that's. I go first, Isabel. May I?
Yeah.
That's such an important question. Absolutely. How is our governance? So, as a volunteer-driven organization, we have a board, an executive committee, with the president, a vice president, and chair members, elected by the whole membership every single year, elected or re-elected. So absolutely, the leaders are elected by the members, spouse or domestic partners, absolutely. And this is the governance body making the decision. My role there is to support them, to make informed decision, to make sure that everything is aligned with the World Bank Group rules and practices, etc. But yes, absolutely, it's a truly volunteer-driven organization, and leaders are elected and renewed or not by the members every year. Every year. Very nice question. Thank you for giving the opportunity to answer that. Isabel.
Yes, very important question. So We're much younger and not as big, even though we're now more than 3,000. I just learned yesterday preparing for today. So we are growing quite a bit. But yes, any spouse or partner who wants to be a flock leader in the country they're in are absolutely very much welcomed and encouraged, can participate. We have flock leaders trainings where we strongly encourage every single local flock to have spouses. We try and do our best to actually motivate spouses to join and to take a leadership role. And any spouse who joins and is willing to take that role is absolutely welcome. We don't have a board, at least not for now. We have a monthly meeting of the leaders in which all the spouses who are leaders and who want to be leaders participate as well, with all the local flocks represented. So they are very much involved. And as much as we can, we try to have official, a few, we have not many, but for example, in HQ now we have 2 volunteer contracts with an official WFP contract. And we always prioritize as flock volunteers, let's say, who help in the coordination of the global activities. And we prioritize spouses. We've always had only spouses up to now. Now we have one of the 2 who is not a spouse. But yes, we spouses are very much included, and their voice is crucial in taking any decision on the flock programming and activities. Thank you.
Thanks. Brenda, would you like to
Sure,
read
absolutely.
the second question?
Yes, so there's a second question that's really around, I guess, scaling and rolling out similar programs, but I'll read out the question. For Secretariat personnel, especially those serving in field and non-family duty stations, it would be beneficial to expand existing AFP programs or recreate such programs for Secretariat personnel families. So the question is when we could anticipate such programs for Secretariat personnel families. So you can see there's quite an interest there for Secretariat-based staff. So there's a big question there around when they could anticipate this being rolled out. Who would like to?
Should I answer? Can I give my perspective? Then I don't know if some want to add some information. Maybe Nana, you have some information. We are having very, very regular conversations with the Secretariat Mobility team, who's has been doing this pilot of global mobility, and who are extremely interested, and we're finalizing the pilot countries. So this should be coming soon, at least for the staff involved in the mobility exercise pilot and their families. And we have to see then, and some pilot countries as well. So that's one aspect of the response. The other one is we've been having a lot of conversations with the UN political and peacekeeping operations in Somalia, who would love also. So that could be another. So we're trying a little by little as much as possible, and we would love to include more and to see how we can support more of the Secretariat personnel and their families. Absolutely.
Sure, and just to endorse that, as I'm Secretariat based, that there are ongoing conversations with the mobility team. So there is that level of interest amongst the Secretariat for such a program, and they've clearly seen the value of such initiatives. So watch this space, shall I say. Is there anyone else on the panel that might want to add an intervention on that? Or if not, we move on to the next question. No? Okay, so Lucia, I think, is it for you, the next question? Audience question?
Yes, I can. I think that's a quite interesting one from Elena. So how do you impress on the senior management of smaller organizations constantly struggling with shrinking budgets that mental health should be prioritized, and that relying on volunteerism and low-hanging fruit approaches is not enough, that mental health programs should be funded and actively promoted? I don't know who wants to. Regan, I see.
I would suggest.
You want to say something?
I would suggest 2 things. Regan, okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. First, you need a champion. try to find or to build a champion, meaning a senior management person that you will individually convince, right? And that can have more voice than us little pieces among huge organizations. And really invest in this idea of attraction and retention. The right staff at the right place. This is key for all our organizations. We don't want second choice, but the first choice has a price. And either you pay the price or you don't, but attraction and retention. That's all I would say.
And if I can jump in on this, and then I want to hear from Courtney, because Courtney's in a a unique situation in a regional office, and so this is also a prelude to the seminar we're going to have next week on psychosocial risk, because I think where we have struggled as a UN, large and small agencies, is we haven't been able to put the price of poor mental health in front of senior managers, and so there's a number of organizations, large organizations, that are bureaucracies like us, that have, head offices and branch offices like us in several countries, that have figured out that, if you can improve the culture of the organization, then you improve efficiencies, you improve engagement, and lo and behold, you improve mental health. And so these investments are, if you look at a return on investment model, it's a great return on investment. And so come to the seminar next week, because that's something we also want to talk about at a larger systems level, is how can we start to make those linkages between health and well-being, and not only mental health, right? But all those other things that, as Isabel mentioned, we're all under pressure for. There's resourcing pressure, there's rationalization pressure in terms of rationalizing what we do. And if we can't put a number to mental health or those initiatives, they'll get cut. And so I think what we really need to do is invest wisely in how we do risk assessments. So that's what I will say around that. But Courtney, quickly, if you could ask a little bit about, or talk a little bit about, advocacy in a regional office.
Sure, thanks, Regan. I think the narrative that we use is really important. When we're talking about mental health and well-being, I think we need to move away from this view of it, that it's like warm and fuzzy and it's the right thing to do, and we want everybody to be happy. We do want those things, but we need to link it into increased performance, engagement, retention, all of these things that offices are concerned about. And if we can use data sets that are available within our organizations, whether it be a global staff survey, different pulse surveys, and we can show that these initiatives have an impact, and really link that into organizational culture efforts, link in with our other well-being stakeholders, HR, staff association, management, and get everybody on board to see the value of these programs. That's where I think we get a little bit of movement. And then once it launches and people see, we have those early adopters showing what the value is, then slowly everybody else wants to be a part of it. So that would be my encouragement.
Agreed. Okay, so we have a number of other questions, and we can answer those either on the chat, and they'll be available to everybody, but I want to be respectful of people's time and allow me to thank the presenters. But I want to turn it over to Nana for some closing remarks.
Sure. Well, thank you everyone that's participated in this event today. I can certainly see that there's a huge amount of interest when it comes to these family initiatives and support systems. I think one thing is clear is that we all need our families, and families play an integral role in terms of enriching our mental health and well-being. And certainly the programs that have been described from the different presenters have also emphasized the importance of maintaining connections as well as sharing resources so that the whole system can thrive with relocations, be it whether you're a single person, national, international, or for a family system. So I just want to thank the presenters, Courtney, Catherine, and Isabel. Your insights have been really insightful. And I hope that at some point we can continue these conversations as we roll out further initiatives. So thank you very much for your time. And I'm sorry that we're not able to address all these pressing questions, but thank you very much for everyone that is tuned in, and happy World Mental Health Day to everyone. Thank you.